St. John's is an unusual program because it requires so much engagement with mathematics and the sciences, 3 years of laboratory science and 4 years of mathematics. Most liberal arts programs allow someone to do physics for poets or biology for people who don't really want to do that stuff. We think that a learned person has to understand not just the conclusions of science, not just the latest facts. In fact, not the latest facts. What someone has to understand to consider themselves educated is that science is a way of inquiring. Science is a way of asking questions of the world. And we need to understand what it means to ask those questions, what it means to judge the answer. How do I understand this to be true? Is this right? Am I seeing this correctly? We do experiments with microbiology. We do experiments with quantum mechanics. We do experiments with the laws of motion. We do experiments regarding the conservation of energy and the relationship of motion to heat. All of those things are complicated and not the sort of thing most people experience in their everyday life. So we need to have laboratories that are prepared so that everyone who walks in, every student who comes, can have an experience, can try those experiments for themselves, can ask, how do I understand that an electron has quantum properties? That's something every student here will do. The work of the laboratory spans over 2,000 years of great scientists and great authors who are writing about scientific inquiry, their own inquiries. We read Galen, for example, who was a physician to the gladiators, as well as being to the Roman emperor, who therefore studied a lot of anatomy. And we read what Galen understood about the way the body works. We also read Harvey from the 1700s or 1600s, who looked at the heart more closely and discovered that it works in ways that Galen hadn't anticipated or understood. So we'll do dissections, we'll do the work to understand what's going on in those experiments. The experiments we choose aren't just experiments that are historically significant. They're experiments that reveal a way of thinking or that reveal a way of seeking to understand what goes on in the world. So we will read Pascal. His works on the pressure of air aren't widely known, but they're extraordinarily profound. He demonstrates that we can see for ourselves the effects of the pressure of the air on our bodies and on the world around us. And we develop experiments to look at Pascal's ideas and understand them. We do more recent work as well. We look at the quantum properties of the electron. Actually, the first part of that is simply the discovery of the electron. So we read Millikan's account of his own discovery of the electron, and then we go to the laboratory and we replicate the experiment for ourselves. It's not unique at St. John's College. Other schools use equipment like Millikan's. I think what's unique is that we try to understand what Millikan was thinking, what evidence he had, what the factors are that led him to believe that there was such a thing as an electron. That is, there's some body which has both weight and charge and which is discrete and discoverable. And our seniors will spend many hours in the laboratory trying to discover for themselves the electron and its properties. We live in an age dominated by science and technology where most of those things are taken to be true, right? Most of those things meaning the earth is round, electricity behaves in this way. It's a scientific fact that sugar is bad for you or good for you or whatever the latest headline is. But you can see how that becomes a realm of some authority tells us. Science isn't an authority. Maybe it ends up being that in a lot of places where you have to take a test, you have to prove that you know the answer to this step in the Krebs cycle. Those are just facts. Facts don't come into the world whole. Facts come into the world as a matter of interpretation and understanding. It's extremely important that we understand how science works, how it's a way of inquiring, how it's a way of getting to understand what we believe in the world. So scientific fact by itself, you can Google that. Wikipedia is full of those. Why it's a fact, why we understand it to be true, how we know we would discriminate or distinguish it from other possibilities. That's why study of science as a liberal art is so important.